stop that right there because the guest is actually on the line. And I want to say, Carmeta, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Perfect, perfect. So on the line with me this evening, good evening, Lady D. Gomez. On the line with me this evening is a young lady by the name of Carmeta Albarus. She is the founder of an organization called FURI. Carmeta, I'm going to skip the protocols because I know that you have to jump on another very important call at 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Or 8:10.
8:10. Yeah, I told him that I joined him at 8.
You told him you'd join at 8:10.
Yeah. I told him the meeting starts at 8. It's in progress, but I told him that'd be a little bit late.
Okay, so Carmeta, I don't know what I did with my microphone, Peter. I had it a minute ago. Yeah, I don't know what I did with it. All right. So the reason. Oh no, I can't. Okay, we'll just. Yeah, I gotta turn this down. Sorry. You know, it's because I'm holding it.
What are you doing the thing?
I don't know where the mic is. It was here. Oh, it's on the floor. Sorry. My apologies. All right. So, Carmeta, the reason that we're having you as a guest on the Conduit show this evening is what? Tell me what happened when you called me the other day.
I think it was on Wednesday that, of course, you know that there's a Black Lives Matter on Adams K. and Powell Boulevard between 125th and 127th Street. And it was done by different artists sort of expressing their own personal views and, things that matter to them. And there was one particular, the L, I think, in black, where the names of individuals who have been killed by the police was sort of emblazoned. It was green, and then it's written in black with the names. And as I was looking at it, I saw that Ramarley Graham's name was not there. And actually, someone pointed it out to me before, a young man pointed it out to me and said, all those names are there. What about Ramarley? So I went and looked myself, and I looked back and forth, and I didn't see it. And I was a little bit disappointed that I didn't see it. And so I called you to find out if there was going to be one in the Bronx, where, because I think that his was so egregious. These people chased him into his home and killed him in front of his grandmother.
And that's a fact that didn't really come out because, remember, they also hijacked and held the grandmother at the 49th precinct, Peter? 47th precinct for something like 8 hours. Now, she's an elderly woman who was not in the best of health, and it took some high-powered attorneys to go down to the 47th precinct on Laconia Avenue to liberate her. She wasn't charged with any crime, but they wanted to intimidate and fix the story. They took the video from the house. But we know, anyway, we're going to talk about this more in depth after you jump off the call, Carmeta. But the fact that you called me, it's something that's been at the back of my mind, because I've noticed that since Ramarley was murdered on February the 2nd, 2012, whenever there's a movement for Black Lives Matter or people talk about police killings, Ramarley Graham's name is very rarely, if ever, mentioned. And I'm wondering, I always wondered to myself, why is that? Is it because, I don't know, because I know Al Sharpton was at one time involved in the campaign for justice. He came several times and spoke outside the home on 229th Street. But then all of a sudden, that high-profile activism went away, and it was just the diehard, I want to say big up to the new Black Panthers, who were always there, supporting Constance Graham and Frank, Constance Malcolm and Frank Graham.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to know, do you think that there is some kind of, I won't say racism, but classism?
You know, I mean, one of the problems that I have, and I really don't want to go there, but then there really is that kind of animus between people from the Caribbean
and African Americans,
which I think is propagated by the dominant culture. In terms of, I was on a program just yesterday where it was mentioned about Jamaicans having a concept of African Americans and coming into this country with a sense of superiority, because this is what is sort of
sold. But is that narrative really true, Carmeta?
Yeah, no, you know, I mean, I'm not saying that it is. I don't know that it is so, but I've heard over a period of time where there is this sort of, you know, okay, you know, that's Jamaican and we're African American. I mean, I remember somebody telling me that, you know, this woman told her son before she died, never marry a West Indian. And so there's a history of that. I don't want to think that this so though at this time. I'm just wondering if, you know, I mean, it was forgotten. I was peeved when I saw that his name was omitted. As a matter of fact, once I saw that, I just left. I didn't wait for, you know, the remainder of the program I was a little bit upset.
Right. I did try to reach out to the artist who was displaying the work. I just have his Twitter handle, which is @SculptWax. And I did try to find an email for him, but I wasn't able to do that because I definitely think that you give people the benefit of the doubt. I mean, nobody knows everything, because I was researching. I wanted to research from the time of Ramarley Graham's murder in 2012 until now, how many black and brown people were killed by police. And I came up with one name that I haven't heard for a while, and that is the name of Botham Jean, or Botham Jean. And there were others. So I want to give people the benefit of the doubt. And then that leads me now to a bigger solution. Why don't we start talking about having a memorial for all those black people, modern day lynchings, who have died at the hands of police? Where is the memorial? Because we see where these memorials in the South that were erected long after slavery was abolished. In the 20th century, a lot of these monuments were put up to Southern treasonists, I shall call them.
Yes.
Right? Confederates. So where are the monuments, as Marcus Garvey says? Where are our symbols? Where are our monuments? Where are our statues? And this would be a great place to start, to gather all of the names, not just being selective. Because Ramarley's case was an outrage. Do you remember?
It was an outrage. And, you know, I mean, it got a lot of coverage.
Of coverage on the press.
My pastor, Reverend Butts, at the Abyssinian Church, I mean, he was constantly on it. I mean, every week, you know, it was mentioned, you know, what is happening about Ramarley Graham.
Remember, because it took 4 months for them to charge Ramarley's killer, Richard Hasty, with manslaughter. And do you remember that video that they were trying to put out there to say that it was Ramarley running away from the police? But when you looked at it, it was not the person. The person wasn't even wearing the same clothes that Ramarley was seen going into his home. And Ramarley wasn't running away. He was walking casually. So there were inconsistencies in the story.
Oh, yes. Well, I mean, you know, the thing about it is that's what they usually do. But no, because everybody has a camera.
Video cameras.
On their phone,
yeah.
That is what the truth is coming out.
So I think what you're saying is that when demonstrations are in place, but the thing is, the people who organize these Black Lives Matters rallies and marches, they tend to have their own narrative that they want to push. So it makes me wonder, do all Black Lives matter or just some Black lives? And how do we change that to bring it back to where it is? So are we now going to be saying, oh, when people say white lives matter, we know what they're trying to do. They're trying to diffuse the situation. So would I be trying to diffuse the situation if I come up with a slogan that says, do all Black lives matter? Because then I'm thinking about the black on black crime, where Black people are still dying.
Well, yes. You know, that is something that we really have to do. We have to have a discussion on that because Black lives have to matter to Black people as well. And it has to matter to these young people. You know, I mean, I'm thinking about this young man who was killed just before his 18th birthday.
Just graduated from high school. Yes, absolutely.
And, you know, and I'm outraged. Yeah, and of course, you know, with the work that I do, a lot of my clients are young Black men who have killed other young Black men, you know, Black and brown. So, so they have to understand, you know, I mean, they have got to have an appreciation of their own lives.
Worth.
Because you've got to appreciate and love and care for yourself so that you can care for others. And that is what we in our community have to do. We have to stress the importance of our kids loving themselves and appreciating themselves so they can see and appreciate others. Because, you know, it is an outrage. And Black lives have to matter to us as well.
Thank you so much for that, Carmeta. I know we've gone a couple of minutes over the time that you said, and I want to say thank you so much. The conversation is going to continue for a moment, but we're gonna have you back because I think what we need to do is really seriously get together to put together a monument, whether it's a peace garden or something, for all of those Black and brown people who have been killed by police. We see now where...
And I think we would get support for it.
I think whether we get support or not, we have enough resources in our community to get it done.
Yeah,
all right? So thank you for sparking that interest, Carmeta. The conversation is definitely going to continue, and you and I will talk further. Definitely, because I think that's what has to come out of this conversation. Can't just be talk, it has to be action as well.
Okay.
So listen, have a great meeting, and thank you for taking the time out. God bless. All right, so you heard there from Miss Carmeta Albarus, who is the founder of an organization called FURI, which is the Family Unification and Resettlement Initiative, where she deals with those who are repatriated, or some people would say deported, to primarily Jamaica, but she does work with other islands. And she was concerned that she was in Harlem. And incidentally, Ramarley's parents come from Harlem. So it was kind of ironic. But I have noticed it as well. I actually have a shirt that has, among other names, Ramarley Graham's name is there. But for the most part, when you hear of a protest about Black Lives Matters and the names are read, Ramarley Graham's name is not mentioned in that number. And we who know the history, it's incumbent on us to make sure that history is recorded correctly. And I think the best way to do that would be to come up with a memorial of all those who, thank you, Black lives do matter, but all Black lives must matter. And you know, we touched on a bigger topic, the animus, or the perceived animus, whether it's real or fabricated, between Caribbean people, I don't like West Indians, Caribbean people and African American. And the irony of it is we're all coming from the same place, which is Africa. Whether you want to believe it or not, we're all a part of the same family. Anyway, I have to say thank you to Carmeta Albarus for giving us just that short slice of her time to get the conversation going. For those who don't know who Ramarley Graham is, he was an 18-year-old Jamaican teenager who was murdered in his own home in front of his grandmother in the bathroom of his own home by a Bronx policeman, Richard Hasty, who went into the house without a warrant. They claimed that they saw Ramarley feeling at the waist of his pants as though he had a gun on White Plains Road and 228th Street. They say that they chased him, but it was the wrong person they saw on White Plains Road, because the video they have of somebody running was not Ramarley Graham, because you could see those two people were wearing different clothes. Ramarley is seen to be going into his home and going up to his apartment. Good evening to you, Madonna Williams. Sorry you missed the conversation. We're talking about why is it that Ramarley Graham's name is rarely mentioned when talking about those black and brown people who have been executed, killed by police. And it's something that we really need to talk about. We really have to ensure that history is inclusive and it's not just some lives that matter, some black lives, but all black lives. Bless up to you, Glenn Walker Foster. How are you doing? Anyway, so that was a conversation with Carmeta Albarus, the director of FURI. I was telling you about, the story of Ramarley Graham. So basically, the officer, when he shot him, well, first of all, the officer, the story is that the officer got upstairs into the apartment. He entered the home illegally, and there's video camera of them trying to kick down the door without a search warrant. They went round the back and forced their way into the home and then went up to the apartment. The officer says Ramarley was in the hallway and then he ducked into the bathroom. The officer went in by himself. The other officer who was with him heard him shout out, "Show me your hands," and then gun, and boom. That was it. One shot straight to the heart. Dead right there.
There's no gun.
And there was no gun found. I don't even know if Ramarley had weed. That is alleged that he flushed it down the toilet. And this took place in front of his... I can't remember how old the grandmother was at the time, but she was an elderly lady who was also taken away to the police station for hours and detained for hours, like 8 hours, while she was being interrogated. So what happened, Richard Hasty, who killed Ramarley, wasn't charged for 4 months. The first trial, the Bronx, let me see, it wasn't the DA, it was the judge. He actually dismissed the case. The Bronx, here was it, The Bronx County Supreme Court Justice Stephen Barrett dropped the indictment because he said the prosecution had done something wrong, but he said that they could go ahead and go before another grand jury to see if that grand jury would re-indict Hasty. So the first trial was like a mistrial in a way. And I was at the court and also at lots of demonstrations, because it just seemed as though justice for Ramarley was taking a long time. And in the end, Ramarley Graham didn't really get any justice because Richard Hasty went through 2 trials. He wasn't convicted. He went through, I think because of pressure. Bless up to you, Buck. Thank you so much. Because of the pressure from the community, they decided that they were going to have an internal investigation. The police were going to do an internal investigation. And they came up with the fact that Richard Hasty had acted not as he should have done, right? So they gave him the opportunity to take a reduced pension and resign. But he decided he didn't want to do that. He wanted to have a trial within the department. So they did have that trial. But before, they found him guilty of improper conduct, right? And he was going to be kicked out of the police force. But 2 days, they told him that this was the decision. And what do you think he did? He resigned 2 days before they were going to fire him. So he actually resigned with his full pension. which is like a slap in the face to the family of Ramarley Graham. He's probably in another police force. Yeah, the supervising officer in the case was somebody called Scott Morris, right? He was a supervisor on the day that Ramarley was killed. He was actually at the house. And John McLaughlin was the other officer who went into the home with Richard Hastie. So both of those officers faced departmental charges. Morris was suspended for 30 days without pay and then resigned, but he didn't get the good guy letter, so he's not allowed to carry a weapon. McLaughlin accepted a penalty. McLaughlin, remember, was the officer who went in with Hastie. He accepted a penalty of 45 lost vacation days, and he was placed on probation for a year. So if he did anything within that year, he would have been dismissed. I don't know what happened to those two officers. And, the Graham family, they settled the case for, I think it was 3.9 million. No, it's 3.9. Because, no, 3.9. They settled in 2015. Nobody did time for Ramarley's murder. And it really was a very sad time in the Bronx. And we've seen so many others since then. But the fact of this conversation is, why is it that Ramarley Graham's name is hardly mentioned when they talk about black and brown people who have been killed by the police? We hear about all the other high-profile names, but Ramarley Graham's name is not mentioned. So I think it's time that we address that, because it's a part of history. And if we don't correct history, no one else is going to do it for us. So stay tuned to the Conduit Show, because maybe we have to lead a campaign for a memorial for all of those from, say, 2000, from Sean Bell. I don't know, because where do you start? Where do you start? There are so many. But we need to look at all. Are we going to go back to Weeksville? All of those people who were killed? We have to have a time frame and just memorialize those. But there has to be a living monument for those, so that the generations who are coming behind know where we were coming from and what we had to face, and that changes have to be made. It's not enough to get rid of Aunt Jemima or Uncle Tom, or paint Black Lives Matter on Fifth Avenue, or Uncle Ben. We want real change. We want the change in our school system. We want the change in our housing system. We want changes in the justice system. And you know what? It's 8:23, and I didn't intend for this conversation to go so long, because I know that the guest was only able to speak with us for 10 minutes. But definitely this is something that we have to go further with. So there were 3 tracks that I wanted to play.